Hello everybody, welcome back to coverage of the Gaming Stadium Standard 2022 tournament. My name is Hayu and I'm here with Mani Davudi. And if you've just joined us, welcome, and you have joined us at exactly the right time because we are about to tell you who has made the top 8 today here in our tournament. I believe we started today with 166 players and now we are down to the top 8. So in first place, we have Joel Enrique Aras with Mono Green Snow. The second place, we have Mono Black Control, the deck that Mani and I were fangirling over just now.
Fawning,
in the
as it
hands of Jakob Pucio Quebec. And then we have Jeskai Midrange, or Jeskai Dragons, as we've been calling it, with Orb of the Dragon kind, Dragon Ball Z, as some might say. In third place, in the hands of Eric Kumba, we have Quentin Leroy with Is It Dragons? So that's the second dragon base deck we've seen in the top 8. Tomasz Pokorny with Mono Green Aggro. We saw him a little bit earlier on in the feature match area. Sylvain Boisseau with Orzhov Aggro, or Orzhov Clerics, should we say, making it in spot number 6. We're going to be seeing a little bit of that deck coming up. Yuya Murayama with Jund Midrange, making it in number 7, and rounding out the top 8, Richard Nguyen with Is It Dragons? So 3 Dragons base decks in the top 8, Mani. A couple of copies of these mono-colored aggressive decks, Mono Green Snow, and or 2 copies of Mono Green Snow, and a little bit of Jund. Round it out.
A sprinkling of Jund, and then getting a little spicy with the black base decks in the mono black control and the Orzhov Clerics decks, as you said. So a lot of the decks that we've watched throughout the day sort of closing the deal and getting the job done, and the decks that really excited me that I think could be role players as we go into the fall, as we see that set rotation and we see Innistrad come out.
So, it's nice to think a little bit ahead about what we might be seeing in the next standard format, but what about in our top 8 here, Mani? Which of these decks do you think strikes you as being well positioned against this top 8 field?
I love this mono black deck. I'm very curious how it's going to do against the green deck specifically. We've seen it come up a little bit short against the Jeskai Dragons deck that we've seen so far, but we didn't watch how that match specifically played out. You and I were not in the booth, so I want to see if they go back up against each other, whether the outcome will be different. So that's where I have my eyes on this Jeskai Dragons deck with Orb of Dragonkind. I've been a huge fan of it, and we are going to be watching that, I believe, in our first feature match here. So rooting for that one to sort of put up some of those results that we've been seeing all day up to this point.
Yeah, it is going to be the Scrubbly up against REEBORN there on the Orzhov Clerics, and we do have to apologize. We are just bringing you one side of this battle. We're just going to be watching from the point of view of the Scrubbly with this Jeskai list. And looking at the opening hand here, Expressive Iteration, Prismari Command, Auron's Epiphany, Magma Opus, and Adult Gold Dragon. A little bit of early card selection and a lot of payoffs.
Yeah, this hand is maybe a bit questionable, but when you're up against this sort of Orzhov aggro deck, as we see the other side bringing, you don't really want to be mulliganing so much. And with a copy of Prismari Command existing in your hand already, this has to be at least a little tempting for the Scrubbly to keep, as you have that Temple of the Dragon. You are able to sort of fix some of your draws with that Expressive Iteration, so this hand is tempting.
And we were talking earlier as well, Mani, about the capabilities of Adult Gold Dragon as a catch-up mechanic. You know, it does have haste and lifelink, so when it comes down, it can really buffer up your life total a little bit if you've gone down against these aggro decks.
Yeah, and again, Adult Gold Dragon, one of the only white cards in this deck here, so that Hengegate pathway can comfortably come down on the blue side. Temple of the Dragon Queen can come down as its red land, so this hand does have all the mana it needs to cast some of these 2 mana spells, cycle that Magma Opus, or discard it to get that treasure token. But it's stuck on 2 lands, so I can understand why the Scrubbly is hesitant to keep it. If you stumble, you may just fall too far behind against aggressive decks like this Orzhov Clerics deck.
Big fan of that full art Adult Gold Dragon.
It's
so
very
cool.
majestic.
Yeah, look at those, like, look at that mustache.
Yeah,
flowing with wisdom.
Yeah, it just has the full look of, like, this is somebody that has their life together. They are a true adult, something that I can comfortably say I've never felt once in my life up to this point.
Yeah, after this match, he's gonna go home, do the laundry, put the dishwasher on, pay the bills, fix the boiler, no, go to bed at 9 p.m.
No. They're definitely going to work out first, like their second workout of the day, because they know the importance. Drink some water, and then go to bed at 10 p.m.
All right, Money. So, Orzhov Clerics down with a Cleric on turn number 1. It is our friend coming back again, Codespell Cleric. Just a 1/1 this time. As of course, there was only one spell able to be cast.
Yeah, we can't really even say they're scraping the bottom of the barrel in this deck, as you just need clerics, and any 1-drop cleric will do here for this one.
We haven't seen a lot of this Orzhov deck going through today's tournament, but it is an aggressive build. You know, it has the 1-drops, it has the 2-drops, and then it has a couple of payoffs for the clerics in the form of Righteous Valkyrie and a couple of Crippling Fears as well.
Yeah, for those who have seen or played some amount of Historic, they may be familiar with Righteous Valkyrie, seeing a bit more play in collected company decks. But Righteous Valkyrie isn't just an angel payoff, it is also a cleric payoff. So it does have that ability to gain you life when you play clerics equal to their toughness. And if you're over 7 life over your starting life total, it is an anthem for all your creatures. So definitely part of what makes this deck so powerful is that 3-mana Righteous Valkyrie there.
So for the Scrubbly, and I just have so much, empathy for this particular position where you keep a 2-land hand, you're on the draw, and you think, okay, I just need to draw 1 land, and then next 3 draws, and then the first 2 draws, it's a dragon, it's a Dragon's Fire. Ooh. Oh, and here's Elite Spellbinder to tax one of these effects as well. And you're just kind of sitting there a little bit tense, a little bit worried, really hoping to see that land off the top.
Yeah, you know it's going to be your Expressive Iteration going away, and
there it is.
You're praying that card on top is that land to unlock this Prismari command. So the Scrubblade, just a little bit of a sigh of relief from them, as suddenly with that Prismari command, they can get rid of the Spellbinder, make a treasure token, and set themselves up for this Galliseth Prismari or Adult Gold Dragon next turn.
Right, not going to wait for Rally the Ranks to come down. I'm going to just dispatch away that Elite Spellbinder right now.
Yeah, this is, speaking of the clerics payoffs in this deck, this is definitely one of the big ones. When you play a mono creature type deck, Rally the Ranks is essentially just a Glorious Anthem for 2 mana, and this deck is all clerics, at least in the main deck. We do see a bit of deviation in the sideboard, but you're playing 2 mana Glorious Anthems in this deck, so you are really taking advantage of the fact that you're sacrificing a little to have all of your creatures be the same creature type, and this is the payoff you're getting in exchange.
Speaking of payoffs, Adult Gold Dragon comes down on the battlefield right on time for the Scrubbly, was already at a pretty high life total at 18, and then Adult Gold Dragon is going to buff that up as well. Last card in hand for Reborn was a removal spell, so Adult Gold Dragon goes away, but from now on it's going to be hits all the way down for the Scrubbly.
Yeah, and we see Reborn, they used their last card in hand in that Bloodchief's Thirst. They took a mulligan this game, unfortunately, on the Blade, so they were naturally a few cards behind already. And when you're spending your turn with 5 mana just activating a Hive of the Eye Tyrant, you know that you're in some amount of trouble, and that is definitely the case here, as now the Scrubbly just has access to everything.
Expressive Restoration doesn't find a land, but does find an adult gold dragon, as well as a Behold the Multiverse, which is just going to be cast immediately. Still no land, but plenty of action left in hand for the Scrubble.
Yeah, this is the one-turn window where they really don't want to see REEBORN have something that they have too much trouble with. Silverpool Silencer, not really that something. Yes, they know about a Magma Opus and Hours of Epiphany in hand, but those are not the cards that the Scrubbley is going to be using to win this game. They're not even the cards that they're looking to immediately cast. So with that second copy of Adult Gold Dragon waiting in hand, even if the Scrubbley is casting Hours of Epiphany here, which they likely will, it's because they're aiming to end the game on the next turn.
Now, these clerics are pretty chunky.
Right? They're very chunky.
That was a 2-mana 5/4 and a 1-mana 4/4 out of this deck. So you do see the power of something like Rally the Ranks that you were talking about before, Marnie, but just feels a little bit like the ship has sailed in terms of, getting down on the battlefield quickly.
They're very chunky, and it would be way cooler if the Scrubbley wasn't at 23 life with lethal damage and flyers and you're top decking. So it's great, but it's great with 4 asterisks.
Does finally a Spellbinder, so REEBORN perhaps buying a little reprieve here. Gonna look at the hand and take away that Magma Opus.
Yeah, unfortunately, there is that Cave of the Frost Dragon in play. I'm going to guess that the Scrubbley is also well aware of that land and just going to do a triple check, make sure that no matter what happens here, if they activate that Cave of the Frost Dragon, it is going to be lethal, and confirms the quadruple check. It is good. Elite Spellbinder can trade with the Adult Gold Dragon, but 6 damage will still be coming through.
That's gonna do it. Game 1 over and done with the Scrubbley. Just the power of these dragons coming in through the air. A little too much for the Cleric's deck to deal with as we look at the sideboard here. Now, Marnie, what's the Scrubbley going to be looking for in this matchup?
More board wipes, so Draconic Intervention and Cinderclasm, both very tempting. Might be looking for something like Rip Apart. Rip Apart is actually one of the first pieces of enchantment removal that's existed in red, so they may want to be using Rip Aparts to deal with the sort of power of those Rally the Ranks that we saw from REEBORN there in that first game, just wanting to have an answer to them. We'll probably likely forego some of the counters as that is not what the matchup is going to come down to. And it looks like actually opting to take out some of the ramp in order to have more high impact cards and less synergistic cards.
I'm just having a quick look at the sideboard of REEBORN as well. 1 copy of Loth, 3 Redain, 1 Tabarax, 1 Righteous Valkyrie, 2 Skyclave Apparition, 1 Bloodchief's First, 2 Soul Shatter, 1 Flunk, and 3 Vanishing Burst. So a nice selection of cards there for the Orzhov deck. You can see probably some Redains, maybe under consideration, Soul Shatter for the dragons, and a copy of Loth as well that we saw be so effective in the mono black deck.
Yeah, I think definitely the Soul Shatters. The Redain is tempting as having access to the front side of the god. Quite valuable. Yes, it's not great as this deck is not a snow deck. We do see a non-snow mountain there sitting in the hand, but just adding a tax to those Draconic Interventions can be the difference maker for this deck. It all depends on what they're taking out. Looking at their main deck, there's 3 copies of Crippling Fear. That's not going to do much for you against this dragon deck. Yes, Adult Gold Dragon does have 3 toughness, but the rest of the dragons don't. So that's an immediate 3 easy cuts right there. And from there, it really depends on which direction you want to go to try to address this matchup.
So REEBORN gets the Silvercore Silencer down on 2, naming Dragon's Fire, which is very apt as we see the copy of Dragon's Fire hanging out in hand for the Scrubbley. Here comes Luminarch Aspirant as well. And the Scrubbly is just gonna have to take the take the beats here, losing the 3 life, giving the opponent a card to get that Silver Quill Silencer off the battlefield.
This is like the inverse of the draw 25 cards or lose the game. It's give your opponent cards or lose the game, which I feel like I may know your answer.
Lose the game.
In that case, yeah.
I'd rather die. I'd rather die.
No, yeah, that was pretty evident. I could have seen that one a mile away.
Rally the Ranks comes down. That's going to be naming Cleric. Oh, look at this. Second copy of Luminarch Aspirant as well. These creatures are going to be very big indeed. You see a copy of Prismari Command in the hand for the Scrubbly here in our quarterfinals. But depending on how these counters are placed, that's going to get outclassed very quickly.
Yeah, they wisely chose to maximize their pressure. They made a Codespell Cleric a 4/4, which allows them to play around the maximum Draconic Intervention that was available there for 3. This does leave one of their Luminarch Aspirants vulnerable to a potential Prismari command, and it looks like this actually could work out for Scrubbly, as at least one of the targets was chosen for that aspirant, but this is still a really rough position now.
I mean, the Scrubbly at 7 life, gonna go digging with Prismari Command as well, but there's really nothing that can be done to stop 7 damage coming across, and now we see the power of this Orzhov Cleric deck. It can put down so many stats so quickly.
Yeah, we saw that game go 1 drop, 2 drop, another 2 drop, and then 2 drops, and the game was essentially over. That's what this Cleric deck can do, and we see the power of Silver Quill Silencer. We haven't seen this card too much in Constructed yet, but when you look at your opponent's list and you identify, hey, if they don't have a Dragon's Fire, they're going to die, so I'm going to force them to die while playing the Dragon's Fire, well, that's a back-breaking sequence.
Yeah, very nicely played there by REEBORN as we go into the deciding game here in our first quarterfinal here at the TGS Standard 2022 1K. Prismari Command, Galazeth Prismari, Cinderclasm, and Goldspan Dragon, the opener here for the Scrubbly in this crucial game number 3.
Yeah, literally could not keep that hand fast enough. That was
just
pretty...
slam the button.
The snappiest of keeps. Part of the reasoning is on turn 2, you're going to have the Cinderclasm. So when you pass the turn, if your opponent goes Codespell Cleric into a Luminarch Aspirant and you have their Cinderclasm, just stick a fork in them. They are done. There is no coming back from that game. So makes a lot of sense to me why they value having this card on the play so highly. And this position, good.
Look at this.
No. Stick a fork in them.
Scrubbly just cannot wait to fire off that Cinderclasm before the Aspirant came down. Oh no, the GG's extended by REEBORN. Wow, that was just brutal.
It feels preemptive, but at the same time, it really isn't.
Is it though?
REEBORN was mulliganing to start off this game, and
that's not
they
gonna
didn't
help.
really have a choice here, but the end result is they're going to put a counter on. Now it's 2, make a treasure. Goldspan Dragon comes down, and every turn when they do things, they are getting so heavily punished. That's the power of a card like Cinderclasm in these specific matchups, and you saw the difference the play versus the draw makes.
Just reveal the Goldspan Dragon. Hey, you're dead. And also, hey, it's down on the battlefield now. You're really dead.
Yeah.
And look at this battlefield. Codespell Cleric, as brave as he is, not going to be able to face up to this Goldspan Dragon. Vanishing Verse is going to be able to take care of that flying threat, but now the Scrubbly with a ton of mana on the battlefield, Expressive Iteration as well, may as well get the Galazeth Prismari down so you can just cast that for free, essentially.
This was really a David versus Goliath story there, as we had the 1/1 cleric facing off against that Goldspan dragon, and Expressive Iteration continues showing why it's one of the best cards out of Strixhaven across multiple formats.
This honestly feels excessive. The Dragon's Fire on the Cleric, I'm not really sure that was necessary. I feel like it was possible that the Scrubbly could have saved that for one of these Luminarch Aspirants, but they're going to come down. They're going to become 2/2s. And oh, look at this. The Scrubbly is saying, okay, I'm going to get one of these at least out of the range of some of these 2 damage effects.
Yeah, it would be a darn shame if the Scrubbly was to have a removal spell for literally everything you played. And yeah, I agree with you that was a rare bit of kind of feeling themselves that Scrubbly showed by actually removing that Code Spell Cleric. Absolutely unnecessary and stood to be slightly punished there, but
I mean, they were bailed out by their deck for sure in that interaction, but still, you know, that's what they put those spells in the deck for. Here comes the big attack, up to 23. Tabarek's Hope's Demise, maybe a very aptly named card here for Reborn, and that is going to do it. The Scrubbly, the winner of our first quarterfinal. Wow.
Yeah, it was the Hope's Demise, but for the wrong player, unfortunately, in the end there.
Call off Hope's Demise, but not for me.